Well, hey, everybody, we are live. I'm really not sure exactly what we're going to do today, other than I think we're going to have a little bit of fun. I've got several people already kind of gathering over here in the chat, kind of getting ready to ask a few of these questions. I kind of decided today that I would share a little bit about me and my journey, as well as many of your journeys as well, as we kind of go through and talk about, as an overall theme, some things we may not know about one another. Particularly me, I'm willing to answer any question I can as far as transplant goes, as far as my personal life to an extent. Be careful with that. But trying to just share a little bit so we can continue to strengthen ourselves as a community and as we enjoy these things together. So several already here. Jason Merlenbach is here. As always, welcome, Jason. It's good to see you today. Pretty much every time I do a video, anytime I do a video, I should say, Jason is there somewhere. He's in the background, and he's generally leaving some kind of comment, not just to encourage me, which thank you for that, Jason, but also to encourage others. He is a tremendous encouragement when it comes to our faith, particularly our faith in God and, of course, the wonderful blessings that God offers us. Jason is a constant reminder of that. So welcome, Jason Merlenbach, for that reason as well. Also, Jason Armstrong is with us today. Jason Armstrong, you've had a tough time of it lately, I know. I hope that the results from you having to go to the ER the other day turned out to be better than we expected. I think I did see where you said no broken bones, so I think that's good news already. But no doubt, if you were hurting bad enough to go to the ER, then things were pretty tough. So just glad that you are here. I'm sure there'll be others joining us here in just a few moments. If not, I'm going to be answering some of the questions that you may have. If you just put them over here in the chat, there's a tiny bit delay from the chat that I'm seeing and what perhaps you were seeing. But as soon as I happen to look over and notice that, again, I'm working with new software, I'll go ahead and do that. Let me kick things off a little bit just by talking to you a little bit about how I got into the transplant world. Obviously, many of you, most of you, as a matter of fact, by this point have heard my story. Born with a congenital heart defect. Of course, that was recognized when I was about a week old. It's when they first recognized there was something going on at least. Then immediately took over to what turned out to be one of the best hospitals in the world, UAB Hospital, not too far from my house, about an hour away in Birmingham, Alabama. Of course, they made, over the course of a period of time, they made some diagnoses that I had transposition of the great vessels, and they formulated a plan to try to do surgery when I was a year old. That's how long they wanted to wait back then, 1975. Of course, by about the 6-month mark, it was do or die for me. I was having a lot of trouble. Things were getting really bad and waxing worse very quickly. And so they went ahead and did that surgery at 6 months old, which put me at the time, this is 1975, a different realm, being one of the younger babies ever to be opened up in Alabama. And so I was thankful for that blessing. Fast forward roughly 32-ish years, I did fairly well with some a little tweaking, a few medications and some restrictions as a child, as a teenager, young adult, did fairly well. But of course, then the issues started. It took me another 6 years until I was 38 years old to ultimately receive a transplant. And now here I am 9.5 years later. I'm still living a great life as a result of organ donation. So first off, we just have to give credit to those who are attributing their lives and their family members' lives to make a donation like this, and certainly to save our lives is what they're doing. And I'm thankful for that. I know that all of you, Jason, both Jasons, I should say, certainly are thankful for that, and everybody else in the community as well. We know what a wonderful gift that is and has been for us, at least up until this point. So that kind of just a rundown to kill the first minute or two here. I'm going to turn over to the chat right quick and see several questions Jason Merlenbach has already begun to ask. First question he has, he said, what do you think is the most important recurring question to ask the transplant team before and during and after transplant? Okay, maybe that's 3 questions in one. I'm not sure. For me, at least, the most important questions that you can ask before transplant is just to ask them if this is the only way. Okay, not that any of these things are really rushing into transplant by any means, but certainly if your name is being associated with transplant, it's a rush. And I don't care if if you're like I am and you basically knew of that your whole life, and then especially knew that the last 6 years or so, it still seems like a rush. It still seems like, things are just happening quicker than you want them to. So I would say the first question I ask them is when they associate your name with transplant, the very first question is this the only way? Is there anything else at all that we can possibly do that would give me other options? Or is this the only option? And I think really, in a sense, I probably asked that many times without knowing it, because I was actually evaluated 4 complete times before being listed for transplant. Every one of those times came up where I was kind of borderline. Some of the doctors literally argued over it. I mean by that, physically almost, screaming battles in the hallways of saying he needs to be listed today. He doesn't have any time left. He's up against the wall. Other doctors on the other side saying, no, let's wait. Let's reevaluate him in 6 months and come back. So I would say ask them if there are other options. Now, as far as during the process, I would probably just say to keep in very close communication with them as to what is next. And I mean by that, even if you're like I am and many of you as well, who are literally laying in the hospital bed awaiting transplant just every single day, when they come in to check on you, just continue to make them reiterate what's the next step. Where are we at? Where are we going? What is the goal in mind? And how are we going to accomplish that? And that's one of the things that I kind of had to learn over the course of several months while being in the hospital in and around time of transplant to actually do. Because a lot of times they'll come in the room and they say, Jim, how are things going? I would say, I'm doing good, same as yesterday. And if given the opportunity, they would just turn and walk out of the room and really not communicate, if you will, those next steps. And so I would say just to constantly be begging them for updates. Give me details. Give me something I can hold on to. Give me something to watch for the next day so that I can, do my best. And then post-transplant, and I'd say if you ask this question another 100 times, I'd give 100 different answers on every one. But post-transplant, I would say one of the biggest things that we have to keep in mind is that no matter where we are headed, we've got to remember where we've gone, okay? So you may have a goal in life of achieving a certain thing. For me, it was certainly not this, but I've got a good friend who he just wanted to get back to doing triathlons. Mark Barber, he just wanted to get back to doing triathlons. And so he set that goal. But there were a few times, and there have been a lot of times lately, so please pray for Mark Barber, by the way, down around Miami, Florida, a great friend of the program, a personal friend of mine. But I would say there have been several times in Mark's journey post-transplant where he had to really stop himself and focus not on where he was going, but where he had been. And just say, look, given things are not great today and I'm not accomplishing what I had hoped to or dreamt to, I know where I've been, and I know that my option at this point was back then life or death, and it kind of still remains that way. So just kind of as you're reaching for goals, if you get in a place where that goal seems unreachable, stop, look back where you've been, and compare that relative to your current situation. Most times it'll be better. Okay. Now we have bad days. I have bad days. You have bad days as well, I'm sure, but just relative, it will probably be better. So Jason, I don't know if that answered your question at all, but anyway, that is the one that we have. Let me check right here. Jason Armstrong, another great friend of the program, not too far from me, as a matter of fact. Jason says, yes, he sprained his right foot. So that's better than a broke bone, but I think the healing time is similar. So, Jason, I'm praying for you that you'll get straightened out. I know that has not been any fun whatsoever in dealing with that. He did say, I'm scheduled for 5 more visits with UAB weight loss. And that's the thing about Jason. He has really been on a journey with weight loss and has accomplished a ton. So I'm thankful for you and your accomplishments in that. Jason has really been a warrior in this. He's really been a fighter. And Jason, I'm cheering for you. I'm your biggest cheerleader in the background, whether you realize it or not, that this journey will keep going as it is, and you'll keep getting toward your goals and accomplishing whatever it is you desire. So let's see here who else we have. Let's see, Christine. Let me see, hold on. I'll come back to that. Yeah. Christine just says, hey, Jim. So hey to you, Christine. I hope you're doing well. I hope things are going good for you today. I appreciate you jumping in right here where we are. Also, here we are, my old buddy. Let me see, I clicked the wrong thing. Let me see, what did I do? I told you I'm learning new software here. All right, here we go. Shayla Carter, thanks always for your prayer requests. Please add them to your videos, maybe in links. Yeah, I probably do need to do that. It'd be a great idea. Shayla, you are a tremendous supporter of this channel. You and Josh are inspirations and encouragement, huge encouragements, if that's the way to say that to me. And I thank you for that. Shayla's also saying hello to everybody else. So hello, Jason. Shayla says, hello, Christine. Hey, Jim. So, yeah, welcome in here with us, Shayla, today. I apologize you missed yesterday. Probably yesterday was better put together than today. But anyway, a little bit more off the cuff today, just hoping to get some involvement. But anyway, we're back here with that. Now, Jason Merlenbach actually put another question in just as we were getting started. Jason says, how do we as patients let our team know how wonderful they are before, during, and after transplant? So you're good at that before, during, and after stuff, Jason Merlenbach. I would just say it's kind of the same. Most of all, I think the way you treat them is going to say more than anything else. Of course, you can verbalize those thank yous and you show your appreciation in words, and maybe, you know, take them a little batch of cookies or a cake or something by the clinic, by the office. But I think mainly we show our appreciation by how they treat them. You know as well as I do that when they're dealing with pre or post-transplant patients, pre because we're all struggling. If you're facing death, you're probably not in your right mind, and it's very easy to get frustrated and maybe not treat others, including your own family or even these physicians and teams, not to treat them right, to kind of abuse them. I know there were days laying in the hospital where I didn't want anybody coming around, no matter who they were, no matter what they were. And so the doctor walked in the door, I'd be short, cold, whatever. Shouldn't have done that. Thankfully, over time, as I was in the hospital more and more, I learned to not do that. And at several different times, I was called the world's greatest patient. And at times, there were nurses and such who would kind of fight at the beginning of shifts to swap up and see who would have me for the day. And I even heard one guy one time that literally heard this. I wasn't in the conversation. They were outside, and I heard one of my great nurses, Matt, he said, well, you had him yesterday. It's my turn. And so I say the way that you treat them is the biggest thing. That would be pre and post. Of course, post-transplant, so many of us are on prednisone, other medications that kind of mess with the mind and get us off kilter. I would say be really, really careful. Treat them like you would want to be treated is obviously the thing, but maybe treat them better than you are treated because they have a tough job, and of course you're part of that tough job sometimes. So be sure that you're able to do them in that way. Let's see if we have something else coming up here. Jason adds to this. He says, I add my sister to your prayers. She has been fighting a big blood clot in her left thigh. No doubt. Those blood clots are certainly challenging. I've got a great friend of the program, Bo Foster. He'll probably eventually step into this. He's actually went, if I'm right, if Bo did what he said he was going to do, and I hope you did, Bo. Bo went to the ER last night on the recommendation of our transplant team. He had a heart cath, I think, the day before, was having some terrible pain in his leg. He has had blood clots in the past, so he went to the ER last night on their advice, and I'm hoping was able to get some treatment in that. I guess I need to text Bo in a little bit and make sure things are going also well for her. Of course, Jason Merlenbach, as I expected, said Jason Armstrong, I will say prayers for her healing, and I'm sure that he will. That's one thing about Jason Merlenbach. He is always, always willing to help and assist and encourage and pray for people, and that is absolutely tremendous. So, let me see. I don't see any more specific questions right now. And I'm serious. Ask me questions about transplant, which everybody I'm seeing right now in the chat, you're veterans in this, and your children. Shayla's case son is a veteran at this. So, but if you do have any transplant related questions, I'm fine with answering that, and I'm fine with answering some personal questions about the channel. At least when I posted I was going to go live, that is what I said I would handle. And so that's what I'm trying to deal with so far. So let me answer some of those questions. Of course, most of you, if you've been around here long, you know that I have a beautiful wife of over 25 years. I've got 5 children, 2 by birth, 3 by adoption, and we've been excited to have that, and they have been a joy. All of the children have been enjoying our lives, and those adopted children have certainly been bonuses to our lives. It has made things a lot better. One of the motivations when I went through the heart transplant process, let me back up. The only motivation I really had in going through the heart transplant process, particularly when things were really, really tough, that big motivation was my children. I've said this before. I don't know what I would do if put in that situation tomorrow, but if all 5 of my children were grown and married and off with their own families, well, I guess grandchildren might play into it by then. I don't know yet. I don't have experience with grandchildren yet, but I would probably, and have said, if it weren't for my children, if they were all grown, gone, and married, I may not go through it again. I just may not. I just may let life wax itself away and not go through the process again, because it was very difficult. And what I did do back then, 9.5 years ago, I did for my family, period. If it were not for them and their love and concern, and for wanting me to still be here on this earth with them, I wouldn't have done it. But anyway, that's kind of my take on that. That's, again, my motivation. As far as, that's a little snippet about my family. Most of you already knew that. But as far as the channel itself, I got a question. It's been a month or two ago. I actually got several questions related to this a couple months ago, and I've just kind of sat on them. Someone actually asked me the question, how did you first get started on YouTube? You know, what brought you to YouTube originally? What gave you your start on YouTube? Well, I may have told part of this before. Basically, my start on YouTube came in because I was already doing inpatient face-to-face counseling / mentoring / education for my transplant center. I was doing that face-to-face, and several of my coordinators and doctors came and said, hey, we like what you're doing. You're helping our patients. I was getting phone calls maybe once a week. Can you get in touch with this patient that we have now in the hospital, we have now in our clinic, who needs some advice? And that turned into, finally, one of them encouraging me, our coordinator, as a matter of fact, Miss Connie, encouraging me and say, I wish there was some way that you could do more. I couldn't be in the hospital every day. It's an hour drive from here, and I'm doing it on my dollar, and I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. It's definitely a blessing, but I wish you could do more. And it eventually, someone along the way said, well, why don't you start making videos, start a YouTube channel? So I did. I was very hesitant in doing that, but I did. And my original plan was to make 15 videos. And I wrote down, I got a little piece of paper about like this, and I wrote down those 15 ideas. And I forgot to look before we got started. I'm over 900 videos now. I want to say yesterday or today would be like 959 or 960. I'd have to check that. But anyway, it's a long way past 15. And so that's kind of how I got my start, just trying to expand on what I was already thrilled to be doing, basically. So that's kind of how I got my start. Let's see a few things over here that are happening. Jason Merlenbach here says he suffered congested heart failure. What advice should I give? He probably is just realizing that his journey is starting because he has no insurance as of now. Jason, are you talking to somebody else? Anyway, when you've got someone who, boy, dealing with transplant in the onset, of course, the physical part of it, the emotional part of it, but when you got that coupled with the financial burden of facing transplant, it is, oh man, it's a rough road. When I was facing transplant to begin with, of course, I was advised by my team to go on disability, and in essence, to try to get Medicare. At the time, I couldn't get insurance. I was uninsurable. This is back. Again, this is 2000, originally this was 2006, 7-ish or something like that. I'm not doing the math well, but couldn't get insurance. I was uninsurable. And so I was fighting to try to get on disability and going through that process, did not have insurance. And so financially, it was a struggle. I mean, a real, real struggle. And you're sitting there, at least I was in the back of my mind, saying not only we're having difficulty right now getting what we need to survive as a family, I'm facing a surgery that's over $1 million. And what if I get stuck with that bill? Of course, the reality is without insurance, honestly, you're not going to be listed. You're just not. So I wouldn't have had to figure out what to do if I got transplanted and then had $1 million bill plus, because that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have got transplanted. But it is definitely a struggle right there. Let me see. Thank you, Miss Shayla. Shayla says your wife and children are adorable. Yes, I've through time, I've showed them or had them in a few different little situations where they kind of popped up in here with me. I don't know if many of you noticed it. What video was it? Is it even out yet? I'm not sure. I've got a video I recorded just the other day, about a 13-minute video if I remember the way it worked out. But during that video, right at the tail end of that video, this door right over here behind me opened up. And of course, whenever that happens, generally what happens is one of my little ones comes running in, gets in my lap, and, for lack of better terms, disrupts the video. But the other day, I noticed just in the reflection of things, the door opening up, and I didn't even look. I didn't even look. I was so close to kind of finishing my thought. I tried to fight through. And when I was watching the video back, as I was editing some things, I saw my little girl. She came in the door, had a toy laptop in her hand or something like that, and laid down on the bed right behind me. My studio has a bed in it, believe it or not. It's kind of our spare bed in case we have a sick child, because it's off our master bedroom. That's where I'm at. But she laid down on the bed right there and didn't make a sound. Didn't make a sound. She knew I was making a video by now. She's 6 years old. I guess she's been there, done that. But she didn't even make a sound. But yeah, thank you, Miss Shayla. Again, I love, love, love my children. Christine says, I'm coming up on my 5-year heart transplant anniversary, and I'm doing great. It's been quite a journey, and I'm constantly learning. Have you struggled with anything, whether physical or mental? Happy 5-year transplant anniversary coming up, by the way. I'll have to get with you and get the date on that so I can put it in my calendar. And because that's worthy of a shout out. Look, I'm not very smart and I forget a lot, so I may not do that, Christine. But in case I remember, or in case I have it in my calendar to remember, I'll try to give you a shout out then. As far as for me, and I hope others will answer this in the comments as well, have you struggled with anything? Let me put it back up here. There we go. Have you struggled with anything, whether physical or mental? Yes, I have. I have cirrhosis of the liver. That is a result of one being in heart failure for basically 38 years. Another is the medication, the Prograf, the tacrolimus, aka tacrolimus, the prednisone I was on for a while at the beginning, which is horrible. Got several video series on that. The mycophenolic acid or Myfortic that I take, different medications affect your kidney/liver. And so I have cirrhosis of the liver. Now it's mild to moderate, and right now it's just being monitored. I'm not even taking medication for it. Shayla, you know all about that liver failure, unfortunately, but I'm not having any issues. So that's kind of the main physical issue I continue to have. Of course, I had my heart valve replaced 2 or 3 years ago, and that was the heart valve for my donor heart. They knew at the time of transplant that the valve didn't look great, but they went ahead with it because they thought they could put off replacing that for a few years. They did. Thankfully, I had the TAVR procedure. I'll try to remember the link in the description about that and how that went. It was a lot smoother than I expected and went very, very well. But that issue did arise. And then as far as the emotional part of that, there's no argument there. Being a post or pre or post, I reverse those, pre or post transplant is a struggle sometimes. I have days where I just get down, and that could be for any reason. Sometimes it's for some unknown reason. Of course, being on that prednisone like I was for several years post-transplant, of course, did something. It does something to you. And then also the trauma of going through the transplant process. I think that near death, for lack of better terms, that near-death experience, and then the time you spend, like I did, away from family and away from my children, I think all that takes a toll. And so I have self-diagnosed, keyword is self-diagnosed, with PTSD, and I do know several that really do suffer with that, much worse than I am, or as we would say in Alabama, worser. But I've self-diagnosed with PTSD to an extent because I meet somebody in the criteria of it. Mainly that it took me a long time after transplant to reconnect with the people I love the most, believe it or not. you get up that wall, you get that wall of separation, assuming that you're going to pass and they're doing the same thing. My wife admittedly had to do that emotionally back then. And it was hard to reconnect. It was hard to get back to really getting close with people again, because in your realm of life, at least in my realm of life, that could end at any point, which is true about all of us, by the way. We're all suffering with a terminal illness called death. Last I checked, the death rate is 1 to 1. You know, you live in this life, you eventually die. But nonetheless, so there are some emotional, mental problems. So I hope that, Christine, that you're not having too many struggles, but I would also expect that it's likely that you are. But happy 5-year transplant anniversary, Christine Carter, Mrs. Carter. If I can get your comment to pop up here. She's saying, congratulations, Christine. Josh's attitude right now is that his new liver will only last a couple of years. Good to be able to give him this information. Yeah. Again, I've been there where Josh is too. It's just, I don't know. It's just strange. And you're excited, like Christine, like myself, like whomever. We've all met with some anniversaries now, thankfully. And so those anniversaries, you kind of look ahead. And for me, well, let me back up. For me, when I was very first transplant came up associated with my name, they told me that the average wait time was 18 months. The average survival rate was about 5 years. Now, it's better than that now. It's better than that because we've got so many that are over the 20-year mark. Of course, there are those that pass in surgery, so it factors out statistically. But you know, they said the average survival time was 5 years. Now, come to find out later, as I learned about it more, they only measure survival rates in the hospitals and the transplant centers officially. Now, I said officially. It doesn't mean they don't know and they're not aware. But officially, they only measure those rates at 1, 3, and 5 year increments. So that's why some of that is what it is. But I was told 5 years. So every year past 5, which I've kind of gotten past this a little bit to Christine or Shayla or Josh or whoever, gotten past this just a little bit. But every year is like, okay, is this it? Is this it? And as the rate has gotten closer to 10 on average, I'm looking at, well, it's been 9.5. I'm not really worried about it. I'm really not. I know technology is advanced, and so it could be that if I need another transplant, things could go more smoothly. Who knows what's around the corner? I also obviously trust God in that, so I'll deal with whatever the outcome is. But at the same time, I'm happy to be here right now. So I'll just stick with that while I'm at it. Let me back up here. I'm not thinking that... Okay, I think that... Oh, hey, Vernetta. Vernetta Davis was here just yesterday. Not yesterday. It's the day before yesterday. I keep referring to it as yesterday. 8-year heart anniversary next month, 12/28. Vernetta, I thought that was coming up, and I thought it was 8, so I guess I did pretty good in knowing or guessing that. But congratulations on 12/28 if I don't remember that a little bit later. Jason Merlemock says, Jim, would you happen to know the percentage of transplant recipients that know their donors compared to the ones that do not know their donors? Not official, but from what I've been able to gather, it's a little less than 50% that have any idea. Now, of that 50% who do know their donors or know something about them, there are even less of those that have communication. Okay, so it's probably much lower than that, but about 50% end up getting some idea as to who it is, and there is some communication exchange. Of course, on the flip side of that, 50% then don't at all, don't have any idea. There's no communication. I happen to be in the 50% and better that have communication. I speak with my donor's mother and or sisters at some point nearly every week, whether it's by text or phone call. I talk to my donor's mother. Lately, I've been a little bit... I hadn't accomplished what I wanted to. I used to talk with her every single Sunday night, period. Got a little lax sometimes. That's we working around families and schedules and such. But I did talk with her on Sunday night for over an hour. Miss Louise, I love you, and I enjoyed that. So I would say 50% is about the halfway mark of having some knowledge of their donor and donor family, but then less than that, having real communication, at least meaningful communication. Craig Larson, let's see what Craig has to say. By the way, welcome, Craig. I've been seeing you in the comments lately. He says, hello, I'm waiting for a transplant listing. I'm nervous and scared. I struggle with about the effects afterwards and having a heart transplant. Look, Craig, so normal, so normal in that. I told somebody the other day, and I've said this many times, if anyone is facing, if they are facing organ transplant, particularly heart and lungs, I mean, just what it is, not to liver, kidney, all of it's bad, but anyone facing an organ transplant period, let me just back up and say it that, anyone period who are not having some anxiety, some fear, some anxiousness, some stress associated with that potential listing and or waiting game, if you're not having that, there would be an issue. So, Craig, I would say because you are dealing with that, that is actually a good thing. I think it's a motivator for one thing. It also lets your team know that, look, you're in it to win it. You know, if I walked into my transplant team in the days when I was facing transplant, and I walked in nonchalant, and they said, you know, are you worried? Are you concerned? Nah, not a big deal. Not worried about it at all. I think they would probably say, let's get somebody in here from the. Now this is not every hospital, but for our hospital, it was the 9th ward. Get him over to the 9th ward. He's going to need some assistance here emotionally. But thankfully, they didn't do that. I just went in and told them I was scared to death, and I let them help me with that. And they can. That's the thing about it. Your teams oftentimes can assist you, whether it be through some medication on occasions, some counseling, some services to help you with that. But at the end of the day, it's part of it. I don't blame you a bit, Craig, for being nervous. Now, as far as you, and I'm going to pop your comment back up here if I can real quick. As far as you said, I'm scared and I struggle with about the afterwards or the effects afterwards of having a heart transplant. I would say 9 times out of 10, so that'd be 90%, I guess. 9 times out of 10, the benefits outweigh the risk on that. So I think you're going to find some huge life improvements. I don't know exactly where you're at right now as far as how you feel every day, but I think you're going to meet with enough improvements that it's going to be worth it. Now, will you have bumps in the road? Yes, absolutely. We have difficult days? Absolutely. We have struggles emotionally, physically, financially, relationally, probably all those categories. But try to get a team rallied around you of family members, friends, loved ones that'll be there to cheer you on. And go ahead and tell some of those up front. Say, look, I'm going to have bad days, and I'm counting on you to have a good day when I have a bad day, and try to balance each other. And then, of course, as a community here, we'll try our best, and we will try to face that together. Craig added to that, I'm scared about any rejection of my heart after transplant. Hey, that's, again, a legitimate factor. The statistics on rejection, and I'm not doing this to discourage you, I'm trying to encourage you. The statistics on rejection post-organ transplant, particularly with a heart, about 80%, 8 out of 10, 80% of us will experience some form of rejection inside of the first 3 years. 80%. The good part is that rejection can be anywhere from mild to moderate to severe, and out of that 80%, a very, very small percent of those are moderate or even severe. Most of the time it's mild rejection. The medications do a really, really good job of managing that and trying to reverse that and stop that and whatever. And there are so many things that be done. Of course, your initial immunosuppressant drugs, anti-rejection drugs are in place to prevent that. But then if it happens, there's so many tricks they have up their sleeves. My sleeve's short, so it's being way up here. But so many tricks they have up their sleeves to help with that. There are different IV medications, different things that can be done in and out of the hospital, outpatient basis even, that can help and can turn those situations around. I've met with a number of people, 8 out of 10 that have experienced some form of rejection inside that first 3 years, and then even farther out than that as well. And it's generally handled very well and generally taken care of. So is it a concern, Craig? Absolutely it is. But is it a real fear? I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of it. But, I don't want it. If I had it tomorrow, I'd tell you something different probably, but I don't want it. Let's see here. Jason Merlenbach said, I think not knowing my donor family gives me a little bit of survivor's guilt, but I respect the donor's family decision. I think that it's my hardest part of the journey, so I just pray. Jason, I understand that. Again, I've been blessed. I knew my donor family within a few weeks. I think inside of a month, I was told that my donor was a 50-year-old male. from Oklahoma. That's all I knew. I'm from Alabama. It's way off over there. I was told that within a few weeks. I was able to exchange letters very quickly and received a letter back. Let's see, I got out of the hospital. My transplant was in May, I think in July, so June, July. Within 2 months, I would say 8 to 12 weeks, I had already received letters and pictures from my donor family because they had received my letter through the organ donor associations that transfers those back and forth. And so I had communication. Matter of fact, I was in the doctor's office one day trying to remember what kind of doctor it was, a neurologist or something unrelated to the heart for me. And I got a random phone call from a weird number, which I normally don't answer. I answered it, and it was a very, very shaky voice. And the lady said, "My name is Louise." And she told me her last name, and she said, "I'm Dickie's mama." And wow, oh, that was something else. That's how I got to know my donor's mother. I knew them through the letter they sent, but then that random phone call came up. And by December, so in the side of the same year, we were headed to Oklahoma around Christmas time, spent several days with them, got to know them. That was a blessing. But yes, Jason, that is a very difficult part. I wish that every donor family and every recipient family would be willing to get together. I think it's beneficial on both sides. There's some healing going both ways. But again, it doesn't happen as often as I wish. So it is what it is. Shayla, in speaking about that, if I can get it to pop up. I'm just learning. Shayla says, "I'm sorry, Jason. Please try not to feel guilty since it is their decision. The donor knows in heaven." Yeah, I would agree with that, Shayla. We need not feel guilty, but I do understand the survivor's guilt. There are days when I step out of the shower. Of course, my bathroom's arranged like a lot of bathrooms. I step out of the shower, obviously shirtless, and I look there in the mirror, and there's my scar. And that scar, even though it's faint, it reminds me of that. And I just have to, sometimes, not always, obviously, but sometimes it catches me off guard. I look in that mirror and I say, wow, it's not just me, that's him. And it could be me or him, but it is me and him, I hope, in the way that I live. Craig Larson says, "Thank you for the encouragement. I really appreciate that and need it." Craig, I'm behind you 100,000%. I'm your biggest cheerleader, like I am everybody's. And so if I can help you in any way, I certainly will. But I would, again, I know for sure that in 99.9% of cases, the benefits outweigh the risk, and the side effects are worth it because of the benefits that come from it. So, Craig, I know you're going to do well. Let me see here. Christine says, "I had my rejection at the 6-month mark, and that was all due to medications. Heavy dose of prednisone fixed it." That's right. And it does. I said the first 3 years, the first 3 to 6 months is really the window where rejection comes in. The first 1 to 3 months, and it could come up really quick. It happens a lot. But the first 1 to 3 months, they're really, really close. The medications are at their highest levels they'll probably ever be, hopefully. And so things are always in control. Rejection stays down. From 3 to 6 months, as they begin to taper those doses, and they'll taper them a little before that, but there'll be major tapers between 3 and 6 months. The doses come down, the potential for rejection goes up, and a lot of people do experience it around the 6-month mark for whatever reason. I guess it's for that reason. But yeah, they can manage it very well. And so hopefully if that does arise, it will. And Christine's right. The heavy dose of prednisone, that's what they do to you. They got you on that taper, and you're beginning to feel like yourself again. You don't feel like the Incredible Hulk all day wanting to snap something in half. And then you get a battle of rejection. They slap the prednisone, they triple it back up, and you're on 60 milligrams an hour, it feels like. And, just feel like you're in a vibrator all day long, and riding on a train bareback, something like that. And boy, it's tough. Yeah, Vanetta's sharing with us the only things I know about my donor is she was 32 and killed in a car crash. Yeah, car crash, yes. And pray for that family. I know you do all the time. But yeah, that's kind of the basic information. If you reach out to your transplant center and your OPO, that's Organ Procurement Organization, which for us is Legacy of Hope, used to be called Alabama Donor Association. You can pretty much reach out to them very soon after transplant if you choose, and they'll give you that basic information. They'll give you it was a male or female and age, and won't always give you the car crash part of it. Like mine, I didn't know until I spoke with the family that he was killed in an auto accident where he was walking down a highway and something fell off a truck is what happened with him. but they won't always give you that. But you can get some basic information generally early on. And although I hear a lot of people saying, well, my transplant center told me not to contact them for a year. Your OPOs don't generally do that. You can contact them generally as soon as you want to. You got to follow the rules, obviously, but you can contact them as soon as you want to, but it will go through that middle person, that OPO. It will not be direct contact. And I always discourage, now listen, I said discourage people, even though we have that at our reach, I discourage people from jumping on Facebook and trying to find their family. Don't try to do that. I know people get desperate. I know after a number of years, people, especially the donor families, want to find out where their loved ones' organs went. But that's not the best idea, especially early on. It's best to do through the proper protocol. Go through the OPO, go through your transplant center, let them help you. That's the best way. And then any contact that comes up. Shayla Carter says, Vernetta, I think that the first liver Josh was offered come from some local girl who was killed in a car crash. Also, I do not know about the person who accepted the liver. Yeah, it's every situation is different. Every situation is a horrible tragedy for them. Like I always say, our triumph is their tragedy, and we have to remember that. I particularly remember that on my anniversaries and holidays. While we're celebrating my 9.5 years, my donor's family is celebrating 9.5 years without their son and their brother and their father and their uncle. And very unfortunate and terrible that happened. Christine said, I never experienced bad side effects from prednisone. Thankful. Christine, do I keep calling you Christina? Christine, let me say it again. Hey, you're one of the blessed ones. Depending on the dosage and how your body obviously handles that, yeah, it is possible not to have those. Of course, you could just be an awesome person too. Maybe you're just so super kind and nice that when they gave you that, you just became a human. You became normal with a normal temperament. I don't know, but I remember my doctor coming in, joking with me. I'd been out of surgery less than a week. He came in and he could tell I'd been crying. And of course, he'd already heard about my spats getting angry at people. And he could tell that. And he said, I think you got a heart from a girl. He was picking, but he's speaking on my emotions. They're all over the place, especially early on, high dose prednisone. And so if you're like I was, awake and at yourself and up walking the halls, you can be a tyrant sometimes early on in the prednisone. Vernetta says, R1, first visit to the doctor after transplant, medication adjustment, no rejection since, but prednisone for life, yay me. Yeah, boys, prednisone for life, yay you, for sure. I can remember when I got off prednisone, I had been tapered. I'd been on the 5 milligram maintenance dose for a while. But the day that I received the phone call, and it was out of the blue, I mean, it was unrelated to a clinic visit, my coordinator said, Jim, I got great news. You're off prednisone. I jumped on here, grabbed my video camera, turned it on, grabbed my giant pill case out, found the bottle of prednisone, and on video I threw it as hard as I could behind me. And I haven't looked back, thankfully. So that's what it is. Shayla Carter says, I go into psychosis from prednisone. You are blessed. Yeah, sometimes that is the case for sure, Shayla. And you live with people on it too. So it's not an easy journey. Let me see if I missed anything. I haven't spoken out to every question. Harbor's Hope, I missed this one a moment ago. He said, what is the rate after 9 years? That's the thing about, if you're talking about the rate of survival, odds are getting better. I mean, they're getting better constantly. And it's a funny thing, and I'm not good at math or that, so I don't know if this mathematically works out, but it's like for every year you make it, it's like another year becomes easier. The process becomes easier. Not only do your medications come down, so your risk of, like mine, my risk of rejection are lower because I'm 9.5 years out. So my medication doses are lower because I'm 9.5 years out. And so the damage I was doing to my liver, I'm no longer doing as I was. Cancer risk are down because I'm not on high dose immunosuppressant drugs. And so I think the further out you get, it's like the further out you can reach because of that. And of course, medical technology changes a lot. There are some medications that I was on early on that are not being used in the same way right now. So someone who goes in for transplant tomorrow, they may not be on the same medication because there's something better that's available. There's something better, some better technology that is available. So that helps a lot. Let me see here. Harbor's Hope said, what are the rates of rejection after 8 years? Same answer, I guess. I don't know. Things are getting better and better. Again, your transplant centers typically on paper, legally, will keep up with 1, 3, and 5 year increments. I'm sure they have records on everything else, but that's what they turn in. That's what, when they're proving, look, we're a good transplant center because our survival rate is so good. That's where you get on the internet and you see, the success rates of a particular transplant center, and they say, well, we got a 99% success rate being measured at 1, 3, and 5 years. We got someone here trying to spam our comments right now, so they try to mess up a good thing, so I'm about to get off just to get rid of them. That might be a good thing. Yep, I think you have been hacked. Yep, that's a part of the YouTube live stream. That's some of why I don't do live streams, but I like talking with you enough. You all, I'm going to have to pause because I'm trying to see if I can just block that out. I like talking with you all enough that I'm willing to do it, but I'm sorry. If I could block this a little bit better. We'll move on for just a minute. I apologize. Don't click on any links if you don't recognize the name as being one of us. Jason Merlebach says, I definitely think the donor's family has more respect for their privacy than I do. Yeah, probably so. It's just a case. It just can't let these important people know my gratitude. Yeah, you just want to do that. So again, you pray for them when you can't do anything else. Yeah, Shayla, girl, I may have to make you a moderator after you and I figure out how to do that. And maybe you can go in there and block this if we're trying this again later. I don't know. There's a way to do it, but I'm not in tune with all this right now. I've got 4 different screens to look at, and I'm not handling them very well. Let me see. Ignoring all this mess. Another question I received a long time ago about the YouTube thing. I already answered a little bit about how I got started. Someone asked me how I deal with ugly comments. Now with spam like that, what I'm going to do in the end of this, I'm getting off and blocking that user. They're out. They won't be back. That person won't be back anyway. Yeah, I'll block those folks, whoever they are. I block anybody who uses foul language or does stuff like that, period. I block anybody who is ugly to one of you. I can take a little bit of abuse myself because I'm on here. I probably deserve it. But anybody who picks on another person in here, they're out and they're gone for good. I can block them lifetime. But what I generally do, if I get a what you might call an ugly or offensive comment, or somebody who's, like I've got a video on I just lost my word. You see, this is Transplant Fog 101. I've got a video about a humidifier that nearly killed me, and it's extremely popular. It's my most popular video, by the way, and not watched by you very often, but it gets a ton of views every single day, and I get people, you ignorant, whoever you are, you should know better. You didn't clean the thing. It's all your fault. I generally either ignore them, which is one way of doing it. Again, if they're abusive to anybody besides me, they're out. But if they just say something like that to me, I generally ignore them. And then, thank you, Shayla. Thank you for reporting that. That'll help. That will help right there. I generally, if I do address it, here's what I say. Thank you so much for watching today. I really appreciate your positive comments and your encouragement. May God bless you. If I can help you in any way, please let me know. And that's what I'll comment back. And it's surprising when you do that people either probably generally just never come back. They're done. Or I've had a few people come back and say, look, I'm sorry. I didn't think about it. I didn't think about there being a real person on the other side, which I'm pretty real. I'm a real guy. But I didn't think about there being a real person on the other side of this, and I'm sorry for that. So I appreciate it, and I accept those apologies for sure. Christine says, I've been taking chlorine for months, and it's really made a difference with my congestion and thinking and memory. Okay. Didn't know much about that. I have to look into that, Christine. She's telling Shayla that, not me, but we're sharing it with the world. Christine, send me something on that. Send me an email or text 256-733-1214 is my text number. Tell me about that. I'd like to hear about it. Vanetta, it looks like Vanetta's out of here and I'm fixing to be. Vanetta says, good chatting with you all today. Have a blessed one. For sure. Blessed. Have a blessed day as well, Vanetta. Enjoyed having you here too. Here's where Shayla said, I'm going to get them. I'll take care of it. I'm going to report the spam and get them blocked. Yeah, that's what I need. Let's see here. One more question, and I really do have to get off because I'm about to have to go pick up my children from school. And when they're here, they're my priority. I know you appreciate and understand that they're my priority when they're here. I'm not going to be on a live stream or anything else while they're here. Craig says, what does rejection feel like? How bad is it? Does it hurt? And generally, and this is a rule of thumb, in general, heart rejection, there's really no pain associated. Now, there can be some chest pain, and there'll be some warning signs that come as a result of such. In general, there is no pain associated with it. Rejection, that's the thing that is a little nerve-wracking. It doesn't have consistent symptoms across the board, but in general, it'll be flu-like. You'll kind of go back to, in most cases, having heart failure type symptoms. Now, you won't necessarily have those symptoms. Won't be, fluid retention, that sort of thing that's common. But bouts of weakness, tiredness, extreme tiredness, fatigue, that'll come up. You can have flu-like symptoms. You can even run a little bit of a fever, a temp. The body is treating your organ like a foreign object, like a virus, like a bacteria. It's what it's doing to your heart, and your body's doing it to itself, so you will have some kind of immune response. The thing is, when you're immune suppressed, your immune response doesn't really always show its ugly head, so you may not have fever and chills like you would with the flu. But in some cases, in most cases, you will have some type of symptom, and your team will be keeping a very close eye on you. But if you do have, and that's why it's so important, your team will tell you post-transplant, if you run a fever over 100.4 or whatever, give us a call, or if you have anything that comes up, do that. And I hope that you've got a team, most starve, I hope you've got a team that will allow you to call anytime, day or night, and they'll address your issue, because of them keeping a close eye on you is going to be key to that when it's all said and done. Shayla says, Craig, I will try to remember to ask Josh about the pain from injection, but it showed up in his labs. Yeah, when you're in and out so many times, so regularly in the clinic, there are a lot of labs, a ton of labs, more blood work than you ever held in your life or dealt with in your life. They'll generally catch it in a lab if you're in often enough. Now, when you get out to the semi-annual or annual like I am, that's not likely. They'll catch it in a lab, but there could be some pain associated with that, and it'll be different. It'll be different for everybody. It'll be different between Josh and his liver and you and your, future Lord willing heart. But I know you're going to do fine. But I don't blame you, man. These kind of questions I was asking and still do ask. Shayla's helping us all out a little bit today. She said, Craig, I'm going to pray extra hard for you because I can see you are struggling today. Yep. Well, we're struggling every day, aren't we? We're struggling every day, aren't we? Craig and everybody else. All right, let's see. Any other things? I answered some of these side questions about how I started YouTube and how I deal with ugly comments. Someone asked this a while back. On average, how long does it take you to put together a video? A good 15-minute video will take me 4 or 5 hours. Honestly, I didn't know it'd be that way, but by the time you come up with the material, think it out, research it, sit down in front of a camera, film it, hope that everything goes smoothly, then turn around and edit it, upload it to YouTube, pick out a time and a date to put that public and to share it out, and then in turn, like I do, I get in the comments. I read every single comment that ever comes on a video. I respond to as many as I possibly can. I used to respond to all of them. I get a couple thousand that I don't quite get that done. but I do read them all. I sit down every night and read the comments and go through. So it takes a while. It sure does. Craig says, thank you, everyone, for the prayers and the information. It means a lot. Craig, again, I'm certainly here for you. Craig, shoot me a text if you want to. Like I said, I'm about to pick up my children, but shoot me a text, 256-733-1214, and we'll exchange numbers, and we can talk anytime that you need to do that. Oh, look at Shayla trying to encourage me. She's trying to flatter me or encourage me, one of the two. Shayla says, I know we all appreciate your part-time, that's right, part-time job. My kids are full-time. I got 2 or 3 other things that are almost full-time. This is part-time, but it's about a 40-something hour part, however that works out. Well, we got 168 hours in a week. I spend a lot of time doing a combination of everything that I'm involved in. So, Christine, I popped it up here. She's got some information on the chlorine and how much to take. It's recommended by a fellow transplant recipient, and my doctor said it's fine to use, so it's really helped with the fog. Sounds good to me. Again, I would advise, and she has, but I would advise everyone, if you start anything, I don't care if it's a supplement, a vitamin D, if you start that, let your team know, take some advice from them, have a sit down if you can, and ask them and check every time. But yeah, be sure to let them know and get their advice and approval before taking anything, because even though something may not seem to hurt in the moment, if it affects your immune suppressant drugs, you may not catch that for a month or so, and all of a sudden you're in a bout of rejection and you can't figure out why, and then they track it back, and it's because you took, too much vitamin E back then. I'm not saying vitamin E is associated. That's just an example. Vitamin E can affect your, what is it? Thickness of your blood. I can't come up with a technical term, but it can and does. So that's an example. But yeah, be sure, because you may not catch that originally, but it may be something that comes up later. In your case, Christine, I get that you've already asked, and I know you're doing well. I'm thankful that you're having success, but just be sure everybody does that. Ann H. and Havel is here. She said, your information is available. Thank you, Ann. Me and Ann text back and forth again the other day. Been a while since we were able to catch up, and I was glad to be able to do that. Miss Ann is a tremendous encouragement to me. She's a tremendous value to the community as a whole. I've sent her a number of VOG masks through the years where she's won VOG mask, and basically I think you've used a few of them, Ann, but most of them Ann gives away to other people. Sometimes she'll reach out and say, hey, I met 3 people at clinic who could probably use a mask. Can you hook me up? And I always try if I can. So hello, Ann. And of course, Shayla says, cool, thanks, Christine. And also she says, hello, Ann, as well. So to everybody, and I've got to get off of here. Like I say, I got to close this down and pick up my children. I don't know if I did what I was supposed to do here. I got on here to answer all these questions, and I did answer. I hope I answered several questions, but really, I just love the community that comes with this. And so if we can get that spammer to get out of here and stay out, then we'll be better off. By the way, if you are, and I couldn't tell you, I may not do another live stream ever. I hope I will. But if I do or don't, if you are ever underneath one of my videos and you see something like that or something offensive, report it to YouTube. You can let me know about it if you'd like, but report it to YouTube. They'll take care of this and such. And again, Shayla, let me see, anything else? All right, that's about it for today. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate and love each and every one of you. I hope that if you're not already a subscriber to the channel, today is a perfect day to hit that button below. They changed the color of the button, by the way, on the YouTube app. It's not red anymore. I think it's gray and black, or black and gray, something like that. Go ahead and hit that. Hit the bell notification all beside that. That's especially important. You hit the bell and it says all. Hit the bell all. So subscribe, bell all. That's important. If we do have a live stream, you'll be notified through that. And that way, if you don't happen to see it on Facebook or somewhere else, maybe you can see it there. And I will definitely be sure to hopefully get you notified. Thumbs up the video. That helps a lot. Thank you for your tremendous encouragement. Again, love each of y'all. And until next time, I'll let Shayla's comment go off the screen here. She's talking about the VOGMAS being a great company, and they are. Christine says, I'll put up one more. Y'all are flattering me. Christine says, thanks for what you are doing, Jim. You have helped me a great deal. I truly appreciate it. Well, thank you, Christine. Love each of you. And for real, you remember when you were dating your spouse? I know with my wife, when we were young and teenagers, and we'd be on the phone. We were on the phone, but it wasn't texting. We were on the phone. And I would say, love you, good night. And she would say, love you, good night. And then neither one of us would hang up. That's how I feel with this. But anyway, we are going to get off this stream, and I will catch you on another time. By the way, if you have any suggestions, comments below, perfect for that. Send me a text, send me a message. I would love to do whatever helps, and we'll come back and do this again another day, and I'll continue to hopefully make videos that are helpful. But until next time, stay stronger, my friends.